A warning before we begin this video, this has adult content and it is intended for people over the age of 18. CICI, I would love to address anal sex. It's something that is very, very common in many porn videos. And I know from our previous conversations, it's something that is expected of porn actresses if they are to maintain any sort of longevity in the business. Maybe you can talk about anal sex and your experience, porn industry, and real life.
Okay. Yeah, so not only is anal an expectation in porn, but it is a requirement if you're seeking any kind of longevity in your career. It's the most highly demanded sex act.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't really have a choice but to perform increasingly extreme acts over time. Otherwise we're out of work, essentially. Right. You will be required to do anal if you want to make money.
To be clear, doing anal is more uncomfortable for a lot of people. I won't say for everybody, but for a lot of people, it's more uncomfortable. And the way that it's shown in porn is very aggressive and violent. And in real life, that doesn't translate to something that is enjoyable for a woman.
Yeah, I think the guys out there should know that, I mean, this is just one of a number of reasons, but really violent, rough, aggressive, like extreme sex acts like anal, for example, and, on to like double penetration and triple penetration gangbangs. The prevalence of substance abuse in the business can in part be attributed to the really violent, painful nature of a lot of that kind of work. So
it's really sad.
Yeah. It's totally understandable that girls will often turn to drugs to just kind of offset the the painful effects of the work, not just physically, but also psychologically and emotionally. So I think it's really important that the guys know.
It's super important. And there are people out there who are going to want to experiment with anal sex, of course, and there are people out there who enjoy it. But the healthy version of that is not what you're seeing in pornography. And the healthy version of that is, anal sex is like the NFL of sexual activity. It's not something that, you're doing in Little League. It's not something that you do with every partner that you engage with, perhaps because it takes communication. It takes understanding your partner's body. It takes lots of lubrication. It takes understanding, and it takes, like, throughout the whole act, it takes them talking to each other. Does that work for you? Is this uncomfortable? Stop. Don't do that. And having your boundaries and your parameters very clear.
Right. Because I'm sure millions of guys out there have seen my first anal video.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's, important to relate that my first anal video was my first time doing anal, period. I had never done it in my personal life.
Yeah.
And it kind of came unexpectedly only because my agent had just really overbooked me. Like, I was being overworked.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of like in the middle of a scene on set, I guess just after a few weeks, I reached like my pain threshold, psychologically and physically. And I started bleeding a lot.
Yeah.
That like during the scene, I could just no longer get the male to enter.
Yeah.
Like my body just said no.
Yeah.
It was just so swollen. Like my whole pelvis was swollen and bleeding. And
so sorry.
Yeah. And it just, instead of, sometimes like it's still, just like makes me sad when I reflect on the lack of like humanity. Yeah. And compassion, because instead of like anyone giving a shit, the director was just like super nasty to me and like insulted me and like kind of like humiliated me in front of the entire set and threatened me and was like, and I quote, you know, if you don't get one of your holes to work today, then I'm sending you home without a paycheck. So he's like, it's up to you. So that's kind of how my first anal happened, was because my vagina would just no longer take it.
First, I want to say, I'm sorry. That is, no one should have to undergo that. This speaks on a federal level about how we're not protecting the people of this country and our workers. I don't care what industry you're in. You should never face that in the workplace. But second, the lack of humanity. And I think if men or boys hear that story, this is a human being being treated like this for your entertainment. And it's not judgmental, because this industry has, you know, fed us this line that, you know, the more it hurts women, the better it is. But this is a real human being with a real painful experience that's not only physical pain, but it's emotional pain. And, you know, I've said it before, but I'm a big believer in that the energy that we consume through our food, through our clothing, through our entertainment, we take that energy in. And by clicking on pornography, you're saying, yes, I accept that what happens to CICI or whatever other porn star is going to get me off is okay. And it's not. It is not okay that you should walk away and that years later it should bring you to almost the point of tears. It's just not acceptable.
Right. It is nutrition of the mind.
Yeah.
So, and people aren't conscious of what they're putting into it.
Well, thank you for being brave enough, honestly, to share that story with us, because that's not easy to say. I mean, when none of us want to bring up stories about our humiliation and making choices that we're less than happy about or actually coerced into doing. So thank you for being brave enough to share that story.
Yeah, of course. That's my on-set story. I did want to point out, and again, kind of an opinion, but for all the, you know, like the regular girls out there, the girls who aren't working in the business, I think that most women are not comfortable with anal, because, like, for example, I wasn't. That's why I had never even done it before porn.
Right.
I don't think women are really comfortable with this act, and I think a lot of them succumb to it under pressure from a partner, again, as part of that like warped social script that young people are learning.
Well, I want to tell you this, because you may not know this. I actually learned this from my friend Cindy Pierce the other day when I was listening to her give a speech at Dartmouth. But actually, men are turned on by the idea of anal sex because they have a prostate gland in their anus. And when that gets stimulated, it's, according to Cindy, it's an old prostitute's trick that when a John was taking too long to ejaculate, they would stick a finger up their butt and that would cause them to come like that. And so to them, the idea of anal stimulation is something that's exciting or sexually arousing. But we females do not have that, you know, we do not have a prostate gland. So for us, it doesn't work the same way. We just have different biology. And if you think about it that way, it makes sense why men go, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And why women go, I don't get it. Like, okay, like for some women, it may be, as it's thrown into other sexual behavior and sexual play, maybe it's not bad or whatever. But for the most part, that idea, that stimulus that comes to men through their prostate gland does not exist for women. So it is a completely different sort of take that the different sexes have on it.
Oh yeah, no, I hadn't even considered that before. That's very interesting.
It's interesting, right? I mean, it kind of makes you go like, oh, I get why they think that would be great. And certainly it's perpetuated in pornography enough, but in actuality, our bodies are just different.
Right. Yes.
CICI, the other thing I think that girls maybe believe from pornography is that in order to be good at sex, they have to say yes to anything and everything, like a good, porn actress.
Well, yeah, young boys and girls are watching that kind of behavior modeled
Mm-hmm.
by porn stars in videos, and what these young people are experiencing, or like, what they're watching is just essentially the industry brainwashing that these girls have undergone,
Mm-hmm.
where they're just told, like, for example, recruiters, agents, directors, producers, when we get into the business, they tell us they want you to model a certain kind of behavior.
What kind of behavior is that?
Is just insatiable, nymphomaniac, um, down for anything, buck wild, no limits, no
Right.
boundaries. So it was the director who once told me, and I quote, "We want sluts, not whores." He's like, "We want you to act like you're not even doing this for the money. Like you love it so much, you want it so much that you would just do it for free. Like, we need you to act that way if you want to make it in this business."
And kids are getting that message. I mean,
Yeah.
girls believing that they have to be that nympho, take anything without conscious thought about what am I doing? What do I want? What do I want? That's called sexual agency. What do I want?
Right.
And there is no sexual agency in porn. You have to be the slut, not the whore.
Right. There's no agency, no sort of like introspection in the videos, or like reflection, communication, and anything that would communicate like female autonomy in their sexuality is just not present.
No.
No.
How we keep women enslaved. And honestly, like they've got men because sex sells.